Bore da pawb. Croeso i'r cyfarfod heddiw. I'm very sorry we're starting a few minutes late. Today, I've got apologies for absence from John Gannon, Judith Hardesty, and Dawn Jones as independent members. There's a significant amount of influenza, colds, and what have you going on. I need to welcome Esther Godfrey, who's here to present early on, and I've got Bethan Hopkins in attendance from Audit Wales. Hello, Bethan. And James Braun, who's a Welsh Clinical Fellowship trainee. He's observing here. I think that's it. Oh, we've got Angie here as well. Bwrdd. Right. Are there any interests to be declared that are not already declared that are material to issues that are on today's agenda? No? With your permission, I'd like to ask Tom to introduce Esther to give us to introduce this good news story.
Thank you very much. Fiona's going to sort the slides. Esther is very welcome. She's one of our intensive care trainees in the final year. I think she completes training next September. And the purpose of bringing Esther here to tell you the story is the board will be familiar with our support unit, the increasing less than full time, all of these things that we hear about quite frequently. But actually hearing about that in the context of somebody's story is quite powerful in terms of why those things are so important. So I'm going to hand over to Esther, and Fiona, I hope you're going to navigate the slides for us. There we are.
Okay, thank you. Right, yes, so I'm Esther. I'm here to talk to you about 15 years worth of postgraduate training in a very short time. I'm probably one of Wales's most expensive ever trainees. So I wanted to give you, my journey as it runs. I do have a warning. I always tell people that my talk includes baby loss and neonatal death. So engage with it as you need to and step away if that's right for you. It's fine. Next slide, please. So I'm actually Jersey born, but Welsh blooded. My parents are from Merthyr Tydfil. But I grew up in Jersey, and then I actually moved to Wales when I was 16. I went to Atlantic College on the South Wales coast, and then I never looked back. I loved it here in Wales. And I went to Cardiff University and Swansea University. And then I graduated in 2010, and I secured my foundation post through HEIW to do my ongoing medical career. Next slide, please. And my foundation training, it took me through a variety of specialties. I thought I wanted to do medicine rather than surgery. So I meandered through a variety of specialties. And I was incredibly privileged that I managed to do intensive care when I was an F1. And I actually had Dr. Anton Simon as my educational supervisor 15 years ago, and he hasn't aged at all. And I realised through that 2 years that I was a whole body specialist, and I liked integrating large sets of data into whole body rather than looking at single organs. So I went into intensive care and anaesthesia. Next slide, please. And it started pretty straightforward. I would say like things kind of ran as expected. And then I started thinking about trying for a family. I got pregnant during my second year of being a registrar. And I was a very straightforward pregnancy, and this is me on one of my last on-calls in Bridgend. Very pleased to come off the on-call rota, and then that was when my life got quite complicated. Next, please. So we became poorly during labour, me and my daughter Juno, and it wasn't really picked up on very easily. So I went to theatre, and I suddenly was faced with a baby who was born floppy and blue and was barely breathing, and I had the shock of my life, and it felt like my life completely took a different trajectory to what I was expecting. And we spent 2 days with her in neonatal intensive care unit, but she was just too septic to survive, and so she died in our arms at 2 days old. And then I kind of really found myself in a parallel universe, and had to figure out how my life was going to play out from that point on. Next slide, please. So it was like the day or two after Juno passed away, I remember sitting and I had my daughter in a cold cot beside me. And I said to an obstetric doctor, I just don't know if I'll ever be a doctor anymore. Like, I don't think I can do this. I think I'm broken. And she was amazing. And she said to me, no, you will be a doctor again. And you'll be a better doctor because you'll be more empathic and you will understand what people are going through when they're having the hardest time. And she said, I have been through similar, and I've lost a baby, and here I am. So I could believe her, because here she was on labour ward comforting me. And I held on to that. Next, thanks. So I spent 7 months off, and I didn't want to rush it, and people kept saying, don't rush it. So I spent the time grieving, surviving, honouring my daughter in nature, and then had to figure out how to get back into work. Next, please. And that's where HEIW has played a vital role in getting me back into work successfully. So essentially, Dr. Caroline Evans was my training programme director at the time. She was fabulous. She came to my daughter's inquest. She heard what I'd been through without me having to say it. And she was there to support me. And she also met me in the weeks beforehand. And we went and had a coffee in a nice tea room, not in a hospital, somewhere completely different, neutral ground. And we talked about how my return might look when I'd be ready and about PSU support. And then I came back with the professional support unit. I had 2.5 years where I had clinical psychology, 2 different psychologists looked after me. I had talking therapy, trauma therapy, therapy for PTSD, gradual exposure desensitization, and that enabled me a safe way to come back. And they also adjusted my training. So I came back 70%. I had my labour ward duties delayed so that they weren't in the hospital where Juno had died, and they were a later date when I'd had chance for more therapy to take place. Next, thank you. So in the early days, I would say lessons in time allowed me to survive. And that was through enormous support from HEIW, support from Princess of Wales, anaesthetics department, support from an enormous amount of friends and family, and also a stubborn determination of self, because I did not want grief to define my life. And I wanted to have positivity to come out of Juno. And I would say less than full time allowed me to compartmentalize. So I would get in the car, I would put my grief to one side, and I would go and do my anaesthetic list for the day. And then I would collapse all my way home, and I would cry 25 minutes on the way home because all that grief had built up. But that was okay. I was proud of that because I was back in work. I was doing it, but I could only do it so 70%. Next, please. So since then, I've gone on to have 2 more children, and 70% has allowed me to be a mum for them as well. And it's not all easy, is it? Taking care of children traditionally either. This is Mila, she's 7. She's on the neurodivergent assessment pathway for autism and ADHD. She's absolutely flipping mental. She is amazing, but hard work. And then Rafe was like a bronchi baby. This is him on a weeks-long admission on Island Ward in the Heath. And they keep me on my toes, and it's tiring. But it's my privilege, and I get to spend the time that I need with them because I'm part-time. Next, please. But I am able to be a mum to all 3 of my children. So something really important to me is I know that I'm in a unique position as an anaesthetist and a parent that's been through neonatal resus. So I founded a project in 2020, which has ended up being an all Wales research project in qualitative research. We're doing pioneering novel work in determining how we should communicate during neonatal resuscitation. And I've become an expert in the field. And I get invited to go to things like the World Congress of Obstetrics and Gynecology to speak. This is me doing a podcast down in London for the Royal College. And it's put Wales on the map in terms of qualitative research in the area. We're published. We're probably going to have national guidance and implement nationally the tools that come out of it. Next, thank you. And I'm also a normal person, and I like life outside. So I really took hold of nature when my daughter died, and we bought 1.5 acre plot. And I spend my time when I'm not in work chopping wood and digging, or with like a nail gun, usually in wellies. Next, please. So I still get support from HEIW, very much so, and not from PSU anymore, but from other things. Like I had a TTT grant for £3,000 for the Welsh Intensive Care Research Trainee Network, and it enabled us to take studies that we'd done in our activity and present it at national and international conferences. Next. I'm doing a research study day that is in January, and I've managed to get the quality unit to secure money for lunch for the event. There's going to be 80 trainees getting their curricular needs done for research, and more people online as well. Next, please. And I'm submitting one of my quality improvement projects for a prize that I did on a sustainability project. Now, whether I get shortlisted or not, or whether I win anything or not, it doesn't really matter. Like for me, HEIW doing things that incentivize excellence is what matters. So the fact that I can submit to it and be in the race and show what I've done is really important to me. Next, please. So in summary, adjusted training and less than full time, it allowed me in the early days to survive. I honestly believe that. Like I don't know if I'd be a doctor anymore if it hadn't have been that way, and if I hadn't have been supported. Now it allows me to thrive. I commit more extracurricular work because I'm less full time. I have projects that take off the ground. I have more leadership and management experience than most of my peers. I'm all ready to be a consultant. I add enormous value, and I know I do. And that's because I've had tailored training, and I've been able to take the pace that I need to do the things that I love. Next year I'm finishing, and I hope to serve the population of Wales as a consultant for many years to come. That's it. Thank you.
So, so I think there's some wonderful parables in there. But first off, I need to recognise your bravery and courage and your sheer bloody mindedness. Dig in, and when it's tough. It's a real privilege to support people to be what they can be. And it's one of the really special things about an organisation like this. When it works, it makes people achieve what they're able to achieve. And I really, really hope that others watching this this meeting will be crying out to employ you as a consultant. And I'll thank you ahead of for everything you're going to do for Welsh NHS in the future. And give our love to your children. Thank you very much. Right. I don't know how you're supposed to follow that, but follow it we will. I'm asking us to consider, please, the draft minutes of the board meeting held on the 25th of September. Have members read the minutes?
Yes.
Are you content that those minutes are accurate? Yes? I'm asking you to go to the action log under 1.6. Have you looked at the action log?
Yes.
Are you content with the action log? I'll go back to the minutes of the board meeting held on the 25th. Are there any issues you wish to discuss that are not covered by the action log or by today's agenda. In that case, are you happy for me to sign off those minutes? I'm asking you now under 1.5 to look at the draft minutes of the annual general meeting on 25th of September. Are you happy of the accuracy of those minutes? Are there any matters in there that you wish to raise now? Are you happy for me to sign off the minutes?
Yes.
Thank you very much. And now, of course, the crucial chair's report. I've tried to describe, as usual, the world that we find ourselves in at the minute, in the way that it influences HEIW and the NHS. I'd like to draw your attention to the Cabinet Secretary's public accountability meetings with health bodies, and ours is due in February. I myself will be having my mid-year review with the Cabinet Secretary very shortly, and I am starting the independent members after mid-year reviews at the beginning of December, next week in fact. And I've completed the mid-year review with Alex of Chief Execs. There's a very serious point in preparing to do the mid-year reviews, and I've been looking at the breadth and the depth and the way that the organisation is undertaking its work. I want to put on record my recognition of the dedication, expertise and the energy of our staff in HEIW. One of the big challenges of being a strategic body is that your eye is always looking to the future. And to give you some idea of how complex that is, some of the people that we commissioned the training for will not be in the workplace for at least 5 or 6 years, and they will not complete their first off training maybe for up to another 10 years. And we know that the life requirement for education and training for everyone in the NHS, particularly around digital and particularly around technologies, is an ever-growing thing. At the same time, however, I'm really proud of the parts that we have played in supporting the here and now issues around performance, safety, quality, and delivery. The NHS Cheers Group. The NHS Chairs Peer Group this week, I'm pleased to say, had I thought a really great session on our education strategy, and I hope that Dorothy and Ian both felt it was well worth the time. They were really well energized, and just a heads up, the chairs are bringing together examples of good work that's going on across Wales in terms of the Community First agenda, which is the new primary and community care effort. Community by design, sorry, what did I put? Community First, community by design. There's a Freudian slip for you. So I just think that's going to be an excellent opportunity to showcase some of the stuff that's going on in HEIW. Board business, this is Jane's last formal board meeting. And I know we wish you every happiness going forward. Jane has brought an enormous amount in with her professional background, but also her particular skill set in being able to both hold to account and also stimulate debate and development. So we're very grateful to you. I think your work as Chair of Audit and assurance has been particularly welcome, and also you'll being the speaking up safely champion. I'd like to just pay respect to that. So I've had discussions with independent members, and I'd like to have your support in asking Alan Lloyd to become chair of Audit and Assurance Committee from December.
Just a quick reason.
No, from December.
Okay,
Right?
fine.
From December. Is that okay with you?
That's fine, yes.
Is that okay with everyone else? Can I ask you to formally approve that? Yes, thank you. I will be discussing in the media reviews, of course, the Speaking Up Safely champion role that you've held. I think at our board development session, there are two things I want to draw attention to. One was the presentation on AI and its effect on education and training and its opportunity and challenges. I thought that was really interesting, and its presentation was given to us by someone who was showing real leadership and skills and expertise in this area. And the other bit was the discussion we had on how we assure ourselves on the quality and safety of the training and education experience. And I would like to commend the way that the executive team in particular have picked up some of the nuances of that discussion, and we'll be putting some different issues, different things forward to strengthen and make it more visible. I don't know, the Vice Chair's report there. You're doing sterling work with with your Vice Chair colleagues, and thank you for going to the Confed. Unfortunately, someone gave me an upper respiratory tract infection. I was unable to attend, but do you wish to say anything?
No, I think it's their chair, but yes, I value both of those, the opportunity to meet with my colleague vice chairs, and I thought the Confed was excellent.
Okay, so stakeholder reference group, the notes are there of that meeting. The next one is to be held in December, and I can confirm that there were no chair's actions. So I'd like you to note for information, and I'd like you to, as I said, approve Alan as chair of the Audit and Assurance Committee. Okay, thank you very much. We move on now to the Chief Exec's report.
Thank you, Chair. I think you copied a lot of mine, actually, but a few other issues just to update on. So I think just in view of the story we had this morning from Esther, just wanted to highlight that Tom's team had invited me to the Medical Education Leads Conference last week. And through the morning, we had a session on less than full-time training, and we heard from 3 other resident doctors, didn't we, about what a huge difference training less than full-time was having on their, not just on their work-life balance, but on their motivation and job satisfaction in their NHS time. And I think that was all 3 and today's story, I think, really reinforce the need for flexibility. And it was quite interesting when doctors were talking about the fact working in the 0.8 was 36 hours, which again I think gets lost in translation sometimes, doesn't it? So yeah, I think you know, it did put a different slant on the benefits that come from less than full-time training, and sometimes people see the practical issues, but actually we need to change the practical issues in order to really embrace that way of working, I think. So that was really good. I'm just going to ask if Sian wants to do any further update on CODI.
Yeah, I've done an overview really of where we're at. So as the board is aware, CODI is a major step forward in our digital transformation, and it consolidates lots of systems used by resident doctors, foundation dentists, trainee pharmacists, and other clinical professions into a single modern platform. It's built on Power Platform technology, so we're maximising the use of that contract, and it'll be used by over 10,000 users with lots of benefits, including reducing manual data entry, reducing duplication, freeing up administrative time. And as more systems come on board, those benefits will continue to grow. And it's a part of modernising our workforce systems, and also a key part of our approach to strategic data-led workforce planning. So as you're aware, part of the Go Live, we implemented a really rigorous checkpoint system that we've shared with you, and the detail of that, and included a number of structured gateways and reviews, and an external review. So in relation to the external review, we have now completed all of the actions that were required as part of pre-Go Live, and those have been done, and we've been working our way through the gateway process. Unfortunately, during the fourth gateway review checkpoint, an issue was identified with data quality and accuracy. But given the absolute focus of the project of going live with a safe and sustainable system, we made the decision to assure the rollout, to delay, and to make sure that those amendments were made and improvements were done. So all of that work is on track. Those revisions are happening, and our users will see all of that rectification of those issues tomorrow. And we're currently on track and planning for a Go Live next week on the 3rd of December. There will be a final checkpoint decision prior to that, with all information against all of the checkpoints, the external review and this latest issue presented to a decision point on Go Live the day before.
Sean, I think just to recognise the huge amount of work that the team, your team, but also the teams that have been using the system have put in. It's been a huge amount of work.
Sean, you used the word unfortunately. I think fortunately.
Yeah, I think to have that assurance and the level of detail, row by row level detail and reconciliation that's gone into this is a fortunate thing. And I also would like to thank all of our digital and data teams, but also considerable input from Tom's team, the wider organisation, and our health board colleagues and NWSSP as well, who've worked really collaboratively and in the moment and agile on this programme to get that assurance across all the bodies involved.
And Helen, do you want to give us just a quick update on the staff survey results?
Yeah, that's great. So So when we started the staff survey, in our remit letter, we had an expectation that the results across Wales would increase by 20%. I'm pleased to say that we are at the moment. We have seen an increase in voices over the system. So last year we heard from 24,800. We have heard from 31,800 to the end of yesterday. The survey closes next Monday. So at the moment, we're running at 27.5% of voices across Wales. Obviously, we want more. We want more people to participate, and they've got until Monday to do that. But it's a significant improvement, and that's really testimony to the work that's happened out in the system. Some of our health boards are really seeing significant increases in their response rates, and there's lots of hard work has been happening there. HEIW, we are currently at 84.2%. Not quite, it's just a small amount off where we were last time. But like I say, this is a reminder to everybody, we have until Monday to complete.
Very much. And just the final point to note is obviously we have formally included in this report that Lisa will be leaving us in the new year. I know she doesn't like me to mention this, but in fact, we will have time to say goodbye to Lisa in the new year. So we won't labour the point now. So I know she doesn't like it, but obviously just to note that's an important issue for the board. And obviously we would want to put on record our huge thanks to Lisa for everything she's done. So I'll have to take any questions on anything else.
Questions or comments for Alex? Thank you very much. We're now moving on to part 3 of our agenda, and you're presenting this, are you, Angie? Yeah, this is the Careers Framework Implementation Update.
Thank you, Chair. So, what are our colleagues? This piece of work takes us back to the workforce strategy and the ambition to have health and social care as a career of choice by 2030. So that's where the hook is. And some colleagues were here when we were developing the framework, what became the framework. But one of the major conversations we had was a lot of debate on the fit of this work. Where does it fit? Where does our careers offer fit in a very, very complex landscape with lots of players on that landscape, equally having a statutory duty for careers advice and guidance. So while we are not careers advisors, where we landed was to have a framework that set out what our piece of that pie was and how we would lead the attraction agenda for health, and that we would also be responsible for sort of identifying the priorities, setting the standards. And key to the work that we've done is the working with partners whose role is to give that advice and to give that information to their cohort of stakeholders. So together that we maximise our contribution. So our stakeholders are people like Careers Wales through to our university career services, teachers in schools, etc. So bringing a sort of source of truth, the single source of truth for the health careers. And having launched the framework, it's got four major areas. It's in the paper. I'm not going to go through that, but I guess we've made significant progress. And having a framework rather than a strategy has become really, really helpful. We started off with the strategy, we ended with the framework, and it is much more helpful. It's flexible, it's adaptable. But even now, it's sort of 12, 18 months old already. We need to be sort of reviewing it because things are going down the track that we perhaps didn't know about as such when we wrote it. So I've just pulled a few things out from the paper, if I may share. And I think one of the things that we're really, really proud of is the bilingual approach. And it's not a translated offer. Everything we do is like the Welsh language is fresh, the English language is fresh. So if we've got a physio, for example, talking about how great it is to be a physio on Careersville, we have a physio talking how great it is to be a physio in Welsh language. They're sort of similar, but they're not an identical match. So that's how we work it. So Careersville, you'll be very aware of. Tregerfa is the sister site. At the moment, we've got 17,000 registered users, and we've had close to 1 million events since we've launched it. That means somebody's gone in and done something, either maybe downloaded a PDF or something. So we're just over 900,000 for that. But I think in terms of the Welsh language work itself, we've been doing work with primary schools, lesson plans, lots of things around health that is in the Welsh language. And I guess that sort of added value piece is if we can attract Welsh speakers to our services, then we're supporting the delivery of the language of choice. So it's not just about being mindful of what people want to receive the information from us in that language, but actually the long-term benefit could be tacked on to that as well. So we're trying to sort of tease through what is the impact of the work we're having, not just the good stuff that we're doing, and trying to get some sense around that. I think key is our working with partners. We've got a lot of feedback now from our partners that is saying we didn't know this information is really helpful. It's helping us to do our jobs. And so that widening reach is really, really important. And we know that then the information that is going into schools is accurate information, is the right information. And I suppose the other thing is we've been doing a lot of work around work experience and trying to get into that work experience space. What does good look like? How can we help people deliver good and meaning work experience? And I guess going forward, we've now got 5 generations that we're starting to think about. So Generation Beta being the ones born this year, 2025, they will hit, sounds awful, but they will hit our workforce in 16 years' time. More importantly for us is by the time they're 5 and in primary schools, they'll be having some sort of careers advice, and they will be growing up with integrated technology. So Generation Alpha, they sort of turn digital native. This group is very, very different, and we need to really be ready for them. So we're starting to think about what is our future vision for this technological AI-based. Does it look like? So that's the work we're doing at the moment, and we're also looking at Careersville to sort of what is the now 5-year vision for Careersville, because it's great, but it's now 4 years old and it's not as innovative and forward thinking as it was when we launched it. So how do we keep it the best thing since sliced bread, I suppose. So I'll leave it there because there's lots in the paper about some of the work we're doing, but I hope that gives you a flavour of perhaps why we're doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Can I open it up to board members? For me, this was a hopeful. This is a very hopeful, forward-looking report, and a lot of reality in there. The world is changing, really, really changing, and being relevant. And I think 5-year-olds are very perceptive now. Very perceptive. Does anybody wish to say anything? Comment? Okay. So I'm asking the board to note this update against the delivery of the strategic framework for NHS careers, which is provided for assurance. Thank you very much. Thanks, Angie. Well, update on leadership and talent. Helen.
Yes, thank you.
I did find you this time.
I haven't moved. Thank you. So the paper that I'm presenting today updates the board on the progress, the impact and next stage priorities for our leadership talent and inclusion portfolio. Looking to strengthen leadership capability, develop sustainable talent pipelines, and to expand diversity across NHS Wales. So it's been a busy space, and we have had a number of national policy drivers this year, including the Ministerial Advisory Group and the Improving Performance Together report, which have really created a system-wide imperative to improve performance, productivity, thinking about how we're embedding clinical and operational leadership at the heart of our changes, and the creation of the continuation of our compassionate culture work for our workforce to thrive. All of which will deliver positive patient experiences and improve patient outcomes. These drivers have really established a framework for our work this year and how we're advancing our offers against our leadership and our talent pipelines. The paper contains the range of work, but there's just a few things I'd like to draw attention to. I think the first thing is the work that we have been doing for operational management. We have co-produced a pilot programme now for band 6 to 8A operational managers, multi-professional. We have been working with the COO, peer group and Welsh Government, and the first pilot of this event is happening today. So it is taking place with 26 participants from across Wales. Day 1 is today, focusing on quality improvement approaches. Day 2 is pathway specific, and that's taking place in January. Following that, this session, we will evaluate and understand what the forward rollout looks like. We are in conversations with Welsh Government for the funding of that forward rollout. So that's an important piece of work, really putting the skills back, supporting the system level skills in operational management, and that's important for us when we're thinking about the quality of patient care. The second thing I just wanted to draw out was the work that we've been doing around diversity in leadership. We were signposted through the RES report on a system-wide promotion opportunities for Black and Asian minority ethnic colleagues to advance in their career. And we have stepped into a space and launched our Stepping into Leadership pilot, which has started taking advice from a range of different colleagues, both within the system and external. The first session went really well, and we will wait to see how that continues and how that evaluates. I think the final piece that has been particularly busy is in the area of clinical leadership. And thanks to Tom particularly in this space, but we have been working with CMO and CNO to really review the clinical leadership model and development needs of colleagues across the system. We have undertaken a number of thematic reviews, looking at what's the evidence out there, what's that saying, and we're in the process of distilling that and doing an initial assessment against our own leadership programs to inform our next steps. And clearly that's really important for us. So moving forward, this is an ambitious area of work for us, and there's much that we want to do. We are confident that our programs are delivering results, that we're improving leadership capability, that we're supporting our succession and our talent pipelines, and that we're embedding compassionate cultures. But the challenge remains for us to really consider what impact that we're making to patient care. That's the question. So we are absolutely committed to our continuous improvement and thinking about what we have a robust evaluation, just testing ourselves against that key question to ensure that our offers remain relevant, accessible to all parts of NHS Wales. And to this end, we're undertaking a longitudinal evaluation to look at the impact that our leadership programs have had on promotion opportunities, development careers, and the impact that it's had in the system. We are reviewing the models of leadership development for primary care. When we think about the accessibility, we know that there are particular challenges, so that's a particular focus. And also the review and evaluation of compassionate leadership principles, which has been our national approach, but actually it's understanding the impact of that and what does our next phase look like. I think underpinning all of that then, we are preparing for the launch of the management and leadership framework, which we understand, while has been approved by NHS England, is yet to be launched. So we're waiting for that to be able to then work with Welsh Government to get that launched in NHS Wales. There's more in the paper. I'm happy to take any questions that presents for noting today.
Any questions or comments, please? Okay.
Comments? I think this paper summarises a whole heap of great work that goes on across the system. And I'm particularly pleased to hear about that longitudinal study that you're doing in terms of what difference is it making. I mean, I can give a piece of anecdotal evidence from a previous life working with the delivery board, where the operational clinical managers going through these programs really helped produce the step change in terms of quality of patient care and ability to work in a multidisciplinary, multi-professional way. So it's great to see that we're still investing in that, and I think it makes a real difference for NHS Wales.
Thank you.
I just thank Helen for the paper. Just to reference that, we attended the induction programme. It was very useful. 2 days. I've read back comments about how it could further evolve. But it was good. Couple day sessions.
Yeah, really good paper, lots in it, lots that I was really pleased, like Jane, to see the longitudinal evaluation, and also look at primary care, because I think that's really critical. And so again, pleased to see that. And I think again, just that whole idea of that follow-up and what's the impact on what is different because of the people having had these programs, training, etc. is really key. So glad that we're doing that. And particularly, I think sometimes in the paper it says all organisations have signed up to the passionate leadership pledge, and then it's the kind of and what next?
Indeed.
And so as a result of that, yes. So yeah, really good to see this paper, and look forward to further updates. Thank you.
Yeah, I just I think it's a great paper. I'd just like to thank both those Helen's teams that work on this agenda, because they have produced really good quality programmes that are in demand, and that's an important starting point. I think we had our first National Culture and Leadership Board with the new Director General a couple of weeks ago, and the recurrent question was, how is this improving care? How is this improving care? And I think that's a great question, which goes to a part evaluation that's probably really challenging for us, but does need to be at the absolute centre of what we're trying to think about, and really You know, we need to keep on our toes around the content, the delivery, you know, and make sure that these are agile offers, not something which perhaps we think we've perfected and then we just stick at. I think, you know, with leadership development at the moment, there is a need for it to respond to the environment that we're in. And I know that, as I said, all of Helen's teams are really committed to that. I think, you know, this is an area where over the years we've used a lot of the non-current money that we've had to respond to asks and requests that become baked in then to our offer, become our core business. And you know, really important that we keep clarifying that to people, that you know, that is why we've had additional money this year, because a lot of these programmes, you know, are now part of the furniture, albeit needing to change, but they are really important national offers that we have, and to do that does require investment. So yeah, interesting and very good discussions at the first meeting with the Director General, and you know, she felt it was a really positive and enjoyable meeting. So I think, you know, lots of energy to do more in this space.
My observation is focus on leading in difficult times and the well-being of senior leaders. And I also think that the innovation space, particularly around, what did you call it? Community by choice?
Design.
Community by design. That's gone in my head now. Community by design is the leadership.
CBD.
It's the
I'm doing that.
well, they're all on CBD. No, no,
It's very
that's
unfortunate.
a very unfortunate acronym. But I would say that leading in that space is probably the leadership, one of the biggest leadership challenges of our time. And I just wish this programme every luck and every success going forward. And can you thank the teams involved, please, on behalf of the board? All right, colleagues, I'm asking you to note the update, and I think we should also say welcome it. Right, we want to see this evidenced at the board so that we can feel assured that we are doing what we're supposed to be, what it says on the tin. Okay, integrated medium-term plan update. Oh, Glenn,
Thank you very much. Thank you.
looking forward to this.
Well, hopefully some of this is familiar to the board because we've started some of the early work to develop the plan for the next 3 years. That early work has involved engaging with board members, but also staff internally within HEIW and most importantly, some of our external stakeholders. So really starting to look and test whether our strategic priorities are still appropriate, and taking that time to look ahead as we should do as a strategic workforce body. So the paper includes some of the feedback from those really useful sessions, but also shares with the board some of the emerging themes and priorities that we'll be looking at. I guess it's important to also put this in the context of the national planning arrangements within the NHS in Wales. We're expecting the national planning framework and funding allocations to health boards to be issued by the 19th of December. And we would probably expect our remit letter, which is really important in terms of setting our priorities for next year, the remit letter from Welsh Government to follow shortly after that. So that's really important in being able to sort of further some of our priorities within the plan for particularly next year, but also years 2 and 3. We've got another workshop arranged in December with staff within HEIW, where we're going to be using the Free Horizon model, which the board members I think enjoyed using at the previous development session, really to get people thinking about that long term. What should we be doing in the long term? Where should we be heading? So that we can then come back and then look at, so what would we do in years 1 2 and 3 to make progress towards those strategic aims, and that I think will help inform a much further and more appropriate INTP for us going forward. So that's some of the work that's planned for December. We'll bring some of that back to the board development session a couple of days after the workshop has met, so that the board are continually informed of progress on the INTP. The aim at the moment is to have a plan that we can bring to the board by the end of March and submit to Welsh Government by the end of March as well. So that's really all I wanted to sort of cover by way of an update, but happy to take any questions or comments.
Any questions or comments from colleagues?
Just a very helpful paper describing the process and how you're going to engage with everybody and ourselves. Thank you for it.
Yeah, comments from me again, agree. It's a really helpful update. Thank you. I was interested to see in the engagement events from the stakeholder reference group, the discussion around developing generalists, and I think that's and the role of the educator and the sort of skills that different professions can have in enhancing those, because in the past sometimes professions have gone very insular and not considered that, so I think that was encouraging in terms of seeing that. And of course, it's the line that keeps coming back in most of these papers again, the impact and measurement, which came out in workshop 1. So yeah, really important. But no, thank you, really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for raising those points.
I have a slightly angled view on this. We don't know when, but it will have the guidance. I want to know how we're going to deal with getting the heads up from everybody else's IMTP. With the downward pressure on the finances into public services and the very likely pressure to do, what did you call it, community
By design.
by design, looking at whatever might come of the political world, it strikes me that the concentration of effort to ensure that community and primary care is strengthened. I'd be very interested to see how we pick up, and of course the workforce patterns. I'd be very interested to see how we are going to fine-tune our processes this time so that we get a real clue as to the direction of travel of our partners.
Yeah, so part of developing ITP, we will be meeting with each of the health boards and trusts individually. And again, the key here is to meet with the right people in those organisations to, I guess, get a sense of what their both their short-term but also the medium-term priorities are, because I think we almost have a unique role in some respects about being able to lift our heads and look further ahead. So I think those meetings with each of those organisations would be key in drawing out what some of the real challenges are for them from a workforce perspective, and then how we can bring that together into effectively what would be a national IMTP, or one that responds to local needs.
I think so far we've focused on the input in terms of the undergraduate pipeline. I think the inflection that we're going to have to develop the skills of people already in post, and that we will need to be much more canny about the pipeline from postgraduate to from being a postgraduate early phase to postgraduate later phase. And also because of the I think it looks like a retirement at the age of 70 over the lifetime of, say, a 10-year prospect. I think we need to be looking at what are the options for work-life change at no points. So I can't do everything in an IMTP, but at least you can set the stall up. So I'd be very interested to see how that becomes reflected And I think the two documents, our two big issues, the IMTP and the Education Training Plan, for any new government, I think is going to be a very key set of decisions. And,
Yeah.
you know, whatever government.
Yeah, and I think we're conscious that you know, whatever we put into our IMTP in terms of priorities, I think there will be a number of them that we believe will probably be relevant and appropriate, whatever government is in place post May election.
Okay. So the IMTP, do we know when they have to be signed off by? If we don't know when we're going to have the guidance, do we know when they have to be signed off by?
So we, at the moment, we're working on the basis that we submit them by the end of March. In terms of when they're signed off, I'm not sure yet. I think that will probably, well, hopefully will be made clear in the framework.
Nobody knows.
They may give indications in the planning framework of timeline, but I doubt they'll go that far.
So I think we should do a very thorough job. Yeah.
We always work without an agreed IMGP before a number of months, so in some sense you just got to say it's no different.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm asking you to note for assurance the early progress to developing the IMTP, merging themes, planned actions that will support its continued development, and the uncertainty of what the guidance is and when we can expect it to be signed off. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. We've now reached 4 minutes past 12, and I'd like to take a 10-minute break, please. Can we turn the recording off, please? Croeso nôl at y cyfarfod. Welcome back, everybody. We move swiftly into part 4, and that starts with 4.1, the Integrated Performance Report. Masterpiece.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's down to the team, that is. But thank you. So again, just very high level overview of performance to date. Generally, I think good progress being reported across the range of INTP objectives that we have. I would like to just sort of highlight the 2 areas that we have alerted the board to. One is around the objective on developing a CPD strategy. And since we last discussed this at the board, we've undertaken a deep dive of that. And I think the deep dive, I think people found very useful in terms of how we undertook that, but also the outcome of that was that we considered the deep dive findings and have agreed to revise the scope of the strategy, which we'll obviously bring back at the right stage. But I think this is probably quite new in terms of our performance framework, undertaking these deep dives, and I think it's the first one appears to have worked well so far, and obviously we'll bring that progress back to the board then. I suppose the second area then that we're highlighting is around digital transformation. We've got an objective around that. I think in some respects this demonstrates the wide range of really good work that's going on in terms of improving our digital capability. But I suppose one of the consequences of that is people want more, and our ability to respond to that in terms of having the capacity and the skills means that actually in some cases we're struggling to actually meet some of those demands. So we've alerted or highlighted this as a sort of an alert to the board, and we plan to do another deep dive to sort of get underneath this in terms of one of the things that are driving that demand, but also are there ways that we can perhaps either prioritise or look at how we build that capacity differently. So some things that we'll look at as part of undertaking that deep dive. The performance report has then got updates around quality assurance of our education training, and also sections on recruitment against the education training plan. Conscious that these are discussed in more detail in the Education Commissioning Quality Committee, so I wasn't going to go through those in detail. So happy to pause there really and take any comments or questions.
Any comments or questions, please, from his colleagues? Alan?
The only question I would have had was on that CPD strategy, because I must admit, when I read the notes, I struggled to understand, but I'm reassured I will get something more detailed in due course, because I just I didn't know what it meant, so it wasn't precise enough for me. Thanks.
Yeah, sure.
Any other comments or questions?
Just to build on Alan's point, so Lisa and I, the meeting after that discussion to re-scope work, and we can get our back on track by the end of the year. I think it comes back to asking a fundamental question: what our role is in CPD, and I don't think we've answered that sufficiently. So there's a lot of work being done, but I think we haven't answered that question sufficiently to put the rest of the work in a logical way. And a bit like the careers framework, there are other people with other responsibilities. So I think what we'll be recommending is more of a framework, where we're clear on what our contribution is, set some principles for the collective, but that we have to work with other partners in order to deliver the ultimate objective. But you'll see more like that in the course. Excellent.
I just want to say this report is getting better and better, in my opinion. We get the information we need now. It's very clear. I like the way it's laid out. Demonstrating, gets to number things really easily. Like seeing what we, how we're alerted to things, and what action's being taken. Again, apologies, because just in terms of the alert around the digital transformation, the one where I didn't quite get enough for me was, I mean, it talks about having to do that with prioritisation of the activities and rephasing, and it's delaying or there's less progress on some of our other transformation agenda. It's kind of, what exactly is it that we have had to put back, and what is the impact of that?
It's particularly impacting our ability to work on internal digital transformation efficiencies and improvements. So, and we've had, there's that, and there's the use of Copilot, maximising the use of Copilot and our digital champion. So, and there was an idea in this year's IMTP that we would be working proactively with departments and areas to look at transformation efficiencies, ways of working, and we haven't been able to have the resource to deploy that into either of those areas, as well as maintaining everything we're doing and taking on new areas of work, such as in the work that we've had through from Welsh Government, or working in conjunction with NHS P&I, or supporting the system. Those issues have been prioritised and we've allocated resources to those things, meaning some of the internal work, the champions work, the co-pilot work have not had the focus or been able to access the resource. However, it is a part of our ongoing conversation, strategically linked to obviously next year's IMTP, but also in some of the operating model that we're doing in how do we become a digital first organisation, and what would that mean, and what does that look like. I think the essence of this deliverable is linked to that ambition, and I think we've done a considerable amount. We're running a considerable amount of previous improvement systems, apps. You can maintain those and build on top of them again, and now we're in that sort of step up position that we need to find that capability and resource to be able to do something. And it's both the capability and the resources.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, I think you just touched on that, but with this digital first organisation seems so key, and when there's always more to do than we can possibly do, would this always drop down the agenda? And it is tactical, and we take out some of those. If there are areas for efficiency, we need to maximise them. But thank you, Sean, that's very helpful.
Just a question really about graduate employment alignment with Welsh NHS vacancies. I know that ECQC, our subcommittee, has spent some time on this, and it's occupied quite a lot of executive time. Clearly, we've had areas where there's been a bit of a mismatch. Are we evolving our systems so that we can better spot these before it becomes more of a crisis?
So I think the short answer is yes. We've got we're planning to establish a group of health boards and trusts that allows us to, and I think it comes back to the point that was made earlier about how we make sure that the information that individual organisations sometimes have comes together in one, so that we're actually better able to look at and predict not only how many people we think are going to graduate in a particular year, but actually have a better understanding of what the employment opportunities are and how they're distributed across Wales, for instance. So a lot better insight and intelligence, but also the conversations, which I think are important with health boards and trusts as future employers, around understanding, whether there is that fit in terms of educating and training and then moving into the workforce afterwards. So our plan is to put that group in place early next year, so that actually we can be a lot more proactive, I think, across the system in terms of how we have effective movement of graduates into employment.
And will that group feed into the IMTP and the development of the training plan?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the intelligence will probably feed both of those, but the conversation will be really important, as well as the information that we've got.
Okay.
And once again, to Jane, at your head of that, at the group that you've been established, there are conversations already happening. And actually we've got health board of interest colleagues already exploring actually what they need to do differently. But it's also actually working actually alongside the workforce planners and work with directors in health boards to understand actually what that plan is going to be looking like in the future. But work is currently underway and it will feed into and develop into that formal arrangement to do with health boards going forward.
So for me, this is like a recipe, not for now, but for the future. And it's good to be assured. I really like the assure, advise, alert. I really like that. We've already heard. I mean, my question is, how good do we want to be? I'm coming back into that space now, right? How good do we want to be? So if I want to take this to the next level, and I'll just focus on two issues, the CPD and the digital transformation. You already said it, Alex, that there's a clarity now, building a clarity about what it is we're talking about. I think we have agency to move into once for Wales national space. So what are those parameters? And how helpful would that be? And what would the impact? So what I'm not getting from this is we're doing very well, say, on something that we're assured, but I don't get the impact. And I know these are very difficult, but these are the difficult areas. So I think at the beginning of setting out the performance report following the IMTP, we need to have a small thing which says, is it having the impact that we assessed, that we desired? The second thing about the CPD is you did a deep dive, and when we were doing CODI, we've used a mechanism which wasn't a deep dive at the beginning, but actually during. And for me, there's a bit about at what point do we do deep dives when we're already in. So are there recognised triggers where we would do an internal deep dive, and are there triggers where we'd want to do maybe an external deep dive? So I think building that into the process. CPD, I would say, will be as important as the undergraduate bits that we do. I would say it's likely to be a much greater volume and potential impact at lower levels. So I think we need to really think through that about when the ambition for the CPD is stated. And our education training plan maybe need to be hiked in that direction. If we don't take the leadership in that, if we don't take on our agency in that, then it'll get muddled. So then I go into this digital transformation. And the question I'm going to ask is the really horrible question. If we're doing digital, what is our realizable digital opportunity and how far are we from it? So we set up that we say we're doing this or that. So what does that give us the opportunity to do? And the next question I'm going to ask is, have we realized that opportunity? So the trouble with this is it's so plain, it screams off the page. So I'm just saying that the next iteration of this needs to move into not aspiration on its own, but delivery on and the resulting impact of. But above all, I think we need to be as good as we can be. So to do that, I think we need to really reflect on when we're in the advise and alert. It may be just a little bit of schmozzle, but if you took a whole load of advices or one or two patterns of alert, because I can see the education strategy linked to the CPD, linked to the digital. So there is another complexity on this, is taking a helicopter view and looking at a balanced scorecard for where we're at against our ambition and opportunity. Does that make sense? This represents a phenomenal performance. So that's why it's so difficult now to take on more work. But if we took the digital opportunity and we did the CPD opportunity, those two things alone feed into right across our agenda. And it means that we're genuinely putting Mrs. Jones and Di Bath in terms of quality, safety and access to services really to heart. And I would love to see, what is it called again? Community
By design.
Community by design. I'd love to see the scorecard for our support, aspiration and opportunity. Yeah, so that we start to collect things more, not just down on the nitty gritty, which is very helpful, but we've got a driver in this report which takes us into the helicopter. So this isn't simple.
No, and I think we recognise that there are a lot of things within our IMDP where we are achieving them, so progress looks really good. The next step for us is to be able to demonstrate the impact on actually how's that improving patient care or population health.
So that I'm exercised about this because I want to make sure our remit letter going forwards is to make us the best we can be and give the best impact we can have on the NHS, rather than a higgledy-piggledy set of things. That we need to have more for the future rather than the today in the next set of remit letters. And that's how impactful this could be. Yeah. Okay. We've discussed the integrated performance report. I think it's of real value to the board, and we've received it, and we look forward to the next iteration and perhaps some reflection on the discussion we've had. Director of Finance report. Glyn, is this you?
It is me, yes.
Again,
Yes.
right, okay, off we go.
Yeah. Okay, so just very briefly, report sets out the position to up to the 7th month of the year. We're reporting a surplus of about £300,000. At the moment, we're forecasting break even for this financial year. One of the things that we're now beginning to factor into our position is the impact of the autumn cohort of students. So primarily undergraduate students who have started their courses this autumn. So we're now beginning to reflect the financial impact of those who have actually taken up places. We'll be able to finalise that probably in the next month. The other two things that we're looking at before we'll get a better handle on the year-end outturn position are the uptake of students taking the bursary this year. So we've got a pretty good idea of who started the courses in September, because they have a 10-week window in which they can decide whether they want to take the bursary or not. We won't know that information until probably December time to sort of finalise what the financial impact is. And then the other area we're just keeping an eye on is around GP training, where we sometimes agree extensions to people's training, and that again has a financial impact. At the moment, if those things didn't change or vary from the assumptions we've made, I think that break-even forecast would probably turn into more like a surplus of about £1 million at this stage. So those are the two outstanding things that I think are material that will firm up in the next month or two. So by the time we come back to the next board, and probably even at the board development session, we can update the board on whether there are any material changes to the position. So that's the position on revenue. In terms of capital, we've got a very small amount of capital funding to still allocate before the end of the year. Obviously, Sean has updated on CODI and the implementation of CODI. We will be looking to finalise what the spend is around that, because that's a major part of our capital programme for this year. But at the moment, we're forecasting that we'll use our capital funding this year. And then the final area is just around our payment of invoices. So we're exceeding the current target of 95%. So everybody's doing really well in making sure that those invoices get paid and our suppliers are being paid properly, which is really important. And I think that probably covers the points that I wanted to raise in the report. So happy to take any comments or questions.
Colleagues, any questions or comments?
Just to thank Glyn for the report. It's clear and sets out all the various risks and opportunities forecast. My only comment is the positive thing of forecasting £1 million. My concern is about Welsh Government colleagues taking it the wrong way when they start looking at next year's settlements, and my nervousness on things like that. But it's all fine what's in the report and everything else. So, when we're asking for funding and if they're saying flat cash type of thing, sometimes it goes against our argument sometimes. But that's just more of an aside more than anything else.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to demonstrating how we're using the funding not only in one particular year, but actually some of this is about committing to programmes over a longer term, and it goes back to actually what is the impact of delivering those programmes as well.
Any other comments? Given the 1 million question, what are the opportunities to invest that in the business of HEIW that would give the maximum benefits?
So I think that's something we need to take away and look at, because obviously it's our ability to deliver that and spend the money this year, and in a way that doesn't give us a financial problem in future years, really.
So non-recurrent. So
I suspect it's being limited.
yeah, but there's no point thinking about it in February.
No, it's also no point spending an awful lot of time thinking through what we could spend it on and finding that we can't spend it on.
Perhaps the best value is to return it.
Just need to feel that. Not that conversation, but we know from past experience, we spend an awful lot of time on this. Spending money on currently is really difficult, especially in that kind of window. So
yes,
don't want to be wasting our time on that.
Okay, so colleagues, we've asked to note the finance report, and to note the risks and opportunities which may impact on the year-end financial position. I think we should also underline the volatility, inbuilt volatility in relation to the environment in which we're working in. Okay. Agenda item 4.3, a really important issue, the Workforce Race Equality Standards Report. You, Helen, again.
It is me, thank you. So in the previous item, you have heard about the work that we're doing to support the Workforce Race Equality Standard report across Wales. This report is focused on HEIW as an organisation's performance. So you recall 12 months ago, we brought the first report here. So we have only been reporting against these data sets. This is the second time of reporting, where for NHS Wales, we're able to look at data, enable analysis against 11 different indicators covering representation, development, disciplinary processing, and discrimination experiences. Reading the report and receiving the report this time, we have seen that there are improved perceptions of equal opportunities across ethnic minority staff and better metrics on bullying and discrimination, and we have seen an improved staff survey engagement, and those are really positives. However, we have also seen that there are recruitment disparities, with white applicants more likely to be appointed than Black minority ethnic applicants. that our ethnicity declaration rates and representation remain low at our senior levels, and that we have an issue with compliance of anti-racism training. So we know we've been in conversation with Welsh Government, and the whole purpose of these reports is for the data to stimulate action, and quite frankly to make us uncomfortable in our practices and to encourage us to do something different. And I think that's what that has done to us here as an organisation. We're challenged now to look to make change at pace with some simple actions, and this I'm quoting directly from Anton Emmanuel at a session recently, who talked about changing at pace with simple actions that are data informed. So particularly around our recruitment processes, we absolutely need to understand what's happening for us as an organisation, and we're just working now very quickly to get underneath that data and look at those practices and where we can make a difference and monitor the impact of those. So what are the things that we can put in place at recruitment? How do we make sure that our managers are appropriately changed? How do we ensure that there's balance on panels and that actually we are getting the right and fair recruitment decisions? We've also got some work to do in terms of training, some training levels, and that action has already started. So it is important. I think it is feedback that has made us uncomfortable, but actually I think we're in a place now to really get into this and at pace put some actions in place that will make a difference, monitor that, and obviously hopefully by next year see a positive difference. That's probably all I wanted to say. Those were the key points for today. But as you say, it's an important matter for us as an organisation.
It's a very important report.
And something for us to be focusing on.
Thank you, Helen. Can I ask members if they've got any comments or questions, Alex?
Yeah, I think just to add to Helen's point, the meeting, the feedback we had individually with Anton Emmanuel, it does make you really sit and think, the data is telling us the story, it's not great. And we, need collectively as an organisation to really focus on that and doing better. And I suppose the opportunity was he presented WAST as a poster organisation in context of this last week at the Wales Partnership Forum. So there are ways of doing this. I think we need to learn from other areas of good practice. And he talked a lot about what's your theory of change. So things aren't going to just happen on their own. What's the sort of model of change that we're putting behind it? So I think, having his approach of just identifying a couple of key issues is really definitely the right way to go. I think really making sure that we are monitoring that closely and using that theory of change. I suppose that the wider thing for us as an organisation is the rest except on us as an employing body. We mustn't forget that we've also got our responsibilities through our other functions around equality and diversity, and can have an even bigger impact potentially through those functions. We think we've got 4,000 resident doctors, for example. So compared with our 500 workforce, we should be the poster organisation for this, because we should be the ones that can demonstrate that we're taking this really intensively through every part of our business. So that's really the wake-up call for us, I think, as an organisation.
Any comments? We are out to advert for an independent member. I would very much welcome application from anyone, regardless colour, creed, beliefs. I think this is an ideal opportunity to bring people into the NHS independent member fraternity, or whatever you call it. What I would say is that how we treat people really does reflect on the underlying culture. And this report to me is a very serious report. The bit for me, Tom, the differential attainment, You know, it's not a level, we know it's not a level playing field out there. And there are very good people who are not getting the opportunity to get into the workplace in the level that they deserve. So I think if we are targeted, I think this business are doing things, maybe a small number of things, but doing them really well. I think we should reflect on that really seriously. Okay, so the board's asked to note the key findings, take assurance the HEIW's workforce and opening directorate will identify and implement strategic actions proportionate to need and impact based on the rest findings. Are we going to have an action plan?
I don't know whether it's an action plan, but I think we need to have a number of actions that we're able to monitor.
When will we see that articulated?
Let me bring that.
Can we? So what's a reasonable length of time?
Well, we can bring back the actions. I think we can bring back the actions early next year.
So shall we say in the March board? Is that giving enough time to really set our stall up properly? Yes? Thank you very much. Audit Wales structured assessment. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Are you still there, Bethan? I can see you.
I am still here. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Great.
Is Bethan speaking to this? Yes. Off you go then, Bethan. We're all
Thank
ears.
you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, and thank you for having me here today to present your 2025 structured assessment report. Apologies for not being there in person. My mum came out of hospital yesterday, so I'm on call, as it were, to help her out if she needs anything. So first of all, an apology from me, actually, because the copy that you have has in your agenda pack has 2 errors, and they were identified after the report had gone through clearance. So if I could just highlight those to you in the first instance. On the key facts and figures on page 6, you'll see that it notes 3 out of 4 of the recommendations have been completed since our previous report of your previous structured assessment recommendations. This has now been updated to 4 out of 4. And this also applies to the number of workforce recommendations on page 31. It says 5 out of 6. We've now updated that to 6 out of 6. An updated copy has been sent to David. And big thank you to Alan Lloyd for spotting this. So I'd like to say it was a test, but it wasn't. It was an error on my behalf. So apologies. So this is, as usual, our annual structured assessment, and we looked at 4 main areas. The first is around how well the board works. Second is around keeping track of risks, performance, service quality and audit recommendations. The third is key plans and strategies, and the last is around how it manages finances. So I'm pleased to say that, as in previous years, this is a really positive report from us. Just as a couple of high-level messages, we've said in the report and outlined that the organisation understands the challenging environment it operates in, and the current and future challenges it faces. This includes the increasing financial pressures, which I know have been spoken about a little bit today, and the wider impact on the NHS workforce in Wales. There's a really good focus on the medium and the longer term workforce needs to inform priorities. Again, we just had another update from Glyn on that, and mirroring everything that we found. There continues to be robust governance, planning and financial arrangements. As always, members and officers are really engaged. Scrutiny and oversight remain very strong. And we've flagged there as well that you can now start to really focus on reporting the benefits and impacts from activities. I know that's already been discussed quite a lot today in some of the other reports that have been presented, and to look at board development sessions to see how they can help you continuously improve. So for the 2025 structure assessment, we've made 3 recommendations, all of which have come out of discussions and interviews with the organisation, and they are all areas which you yourself have identified and areas you'd like to develop, and we agree with. So the first recommendation is around having in place strong and consistent guidance to capture and triangulate information from the learner experience presentations. So this came out of discussions and making the most around the presentations that you currently have and really using them in a way which contributes and informs the other information that you gather on the learner experience, which is comprehensive. The second recommendation is to clarify the purpose and impact of your board development sessions and then design the programme accordingly. This was to ensure that your board development sessions are not used for sort of dry runs of board business or board meetings and are really being used to their full potential to assess and develop the board in areas in which the organisation sees fit and really adds value. And I know David and I have already had a quick chat on that. And the last recommendation is around formally communicating with stakeholders how the financial pressures may risk the sustainability in the wider NHS workforce. So this recommendation is really about that clear communication of the really important role that you play in the future of the NHS workforce, really highlighting the strategic risk to future sustainability on the health boards and trusts if those short-term financial decisions are made regarding funding of training. So as an aside as well, we mentioned this in last year's structured assessment, but obviously it changes every year, but I just wanted to highlight. We do recognise the significant developments which the organisation is undertaking in relation to digital and governance work. We mentioned in last year's structured assessment that we were mindful of capacity in some of the teams as you develop a lot of these initiatives. But I just wanted to note that this is still something that we're aware of for an organisation which is actually quite lean, but constantly looking to improve and undertake new initiatives. And I know this has been chatted about already today. I think, Chair, you referenced it in your Chair's report around the breadth, depth, volume and complexity of the work that the staff are currently undertaking. So just something to note. Now, usually you would present a management response form with this report outlining your response to recommendations, but I understand this will be going to the audit committee in February instead, which I am happy to attend and to chat through any of the responses that you have to the recommendations at that point too. But on that note, I am happy to take any comments or questions.
Comments or questions?
As Bethan says, this would normally have come to the audit committee first and would then have the management response with it. But rather than delay it, we felt it was more appropriate for it to come straight to board, so board actually can see and understand the areas where we need to pay some attention.
No pressure.
Again, welcome seeing the report and I think the areas, some of which we know we've already started to consider with regard to the board development sessions, which I think IM's found changing in the last couple really great. I'd also comment on within the narrative, there was a discussion about the stories that come to board at the beginning of board and how we clear what they're wanting to achieve. And I just thought, given the story we had this morning, that was an excellent example of just how powerful those can be and what it demonstrated. So I commend Esther who came. But yeah, I just thought that is a model, I think, in terms of how useful they can be when they do come, especially as I am.
Can we even but imagine the impact of having someone like Esther as a paediatric intensive care, the impact on direct patient care and on colleagues, supporting colleagues and giving belief that you can do is immense. It was a wonderful story, wasn't it? Thank you, Bethan, for the work that you've done with us. We look forward to further work, but our ambition is to be the best of partners and to be as good as we can be. Right? And that has no boundary. So I take the hint about looking at capacity. I think we've got amazing capability within the organisation. It's about making sure we do hit home and make the most of what we do. So with that, I'm asking you please to note the Audit Wales structured assessment. Oh, I'm sorry, Lisa.
Yeah. So, Chair, and Beth, actually, on that, actually, sort of paragraph 25, I think I did feedback some elements to it. So can we have a conversation about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no problem at all.
Thank
So if
you.
you either, we can put something in the diary to catch up if you'd like.
Yeah, thank you.
And I look forward to the audit committee looking at our response to this with interest.
Yep.
Okay. Right. So can I ask you please to note the Audit Wales structured assessment, and thank you, Bethan.
Thank you very much,
Everybody
Chair.
okay with that? Thank you. Board assurance framework, including strategic risks. David.
Diolch fawr iawn, Cadeirydd. Felly mae'r ymarfer da bod ni'n ystyried ac yn nodi'r fframwaith sicrwydd y bwrdd neu'r BAF yn ddynyddol. Mae'r BAF eisoes wedi cael ei ystyried gan y Pwyllgor Archwilio ar y 9 o Hydref, lle gallai nodi yn y cyfarfod yna. Mae yn ddogfen dynamig, mae o'n cael ei diweddaru i adlewyrchu newidiadau yn yr IMTP, yr ETP ac yn arbennig o ran ein nodau a risgiau strategol a'r ffynonellau sicrwydd o'n i'n rhoi yn ei le ar ei gyfer nhw. Felly, dyn ni'n gofyn sgwrs marfod y bwrdd yn adlygu ac yn nodi'r BAF.
Pawb wedi darllen hon? Everybody's read it. Are there any comments or questions? No, I'm asking members to review and note the board assurance framework. Thank you. Review of standing orders, David.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, Cadeirydd. Felly, unwaith eto, mae'n ymarfer da bod y ffwrdd yn adolygu ac yn ystyried ei rheolau sefydlog yn flynyddol. Unwaith eto, mae'r rheolau sefydlog wedi cael ei ystyried yn y cyfarfod diwethaf o'r Pwyllgor Archwilio ac maen nhw'n oedd y Pwyllgor cefnogi newidiadau arfaethedig. Da ni'n awgrymu nifer o newidiadau i'r rheolau sefydlog. Mae'r hyn yn ymwneud gyda'r newidiadau yn y ffordd da ni'n adrodd ar waith y Pwyllgor i'r bwrdd. Da ni'n cyfeirio at y llesiant cenedlaethol y dyfodol ac hefyd newid o ran y gyfyniad blaenorol fod un aelod o'r Pwyllgor addysg hefyd yn aelod o'r Pwyllgor Archwilio. Mae Alun Lloyd wedi bod yn graff iawn yn ystyried papur a wedi pwyntio allan fod yna gan gymeriad. Mae'r blaen papur yn cyfeirio at y ffaith bod y newidiadau hyn wedi cael eu tracio yn y ddogfen, yn yr atodiad, ond wrth gwrs mae'r ddogfen yn lan. Ond da ni yn gallu cadarnhau fod y fersiwn cywir ger bron heddiw. Felly, gan ymddiheuro am hynny, da ni'n gofyn os gwelwch yna bod chi'n ystyried ac yn cymeradwyo y rheolau sefydlog ger bron. Diolch.
Diolch. So, members have read this. I have one question. Are there any other comments or questions? My one question is, can you assure us that we're absolutely up to date with the standing orders as sent out from Welsh Government?
Yes, we are. There was a review taken last year.
Right. Are there any standing orders that have come out since that need to be reflected in our standing orders?
No, it's
in terms of new models.
New models.
I'm not aware of Glyn or Avil, no, but definitely
no. Yes.
Okay, I think it's really important to state the date that this is that review is there. I can't remember if that date is there.
I can have a look at that, but we took part in that exercise the last time Welsh Government took that, which I think is effective. That's it.
Okay, thank you. So I'm asking the board to review and approve the proposed amendment to the HEIW standing orders. And can I take it that the amendments and corrections will go on the website of both this and the Audit Wales the structured assessment. They've gone by the end of the day?
Yes.
Yes, excellent. Thank you. Board self-assessment action plan progress. Dafydd eto.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. Felly, unwaith eto, mae'n ymarfer da bod ni yn adolygu ein cynnydd o ran y cynllun gweithredu hynna asesiad y bwrdd. Byddwch yn gweld o'r 11 o weithredoedd, mae 7 wedi cael eu cwblhau eisoes, ac o ran 4 mae'r gwaith yn mynd rhagddi ac mae yna ddiweddariad ynglyn â lle yda ni. O ran uchafbwyntiau, mae cymeradwyo'r fframwaith strategol weithredu, bod yr INTP yn adlewyrchu'r llythyr cylch gwaith neu remit letter, y llywodraeth ac yn adlewyrchu'r newidiadau poblogaeth, gweithlu, gyda economi, ac hefyd, yn bod ni hefyd wedi diwygio ac cymeradwyo ein fframwaith rheoli perfformiad diwygedig. Felly, dyna gofyn sgwrs yna bwrdd yn nodi y papur.
Everybody's read this. Can I ask, does it feel right to everybody? Yes?
For the January updates, could I have a bit more clarity on the enhanced independent member involvement and stakeholder relationships? I don't think there's anything coming through on that at the moment.
Right.
That's planned for a board development session in the new year. So we're going to take you through that and then post that board development session, which Dawn will be leading. We'll provide an update. We're also providing quarterly updates to the executive team that will come through in an end of year summary against the comms engagement framework, which will include that as for information about the work that we're doing as well. So it's in train.
Thank you very much. So the board's asked the progress made against the actions agreed in the 24-25 board self-assessment plan. Yeah, thank you very much. So now the key issue reports from the Audit Assurance Committee held on the 9th of October. Jane?
Thank you, Sarah. There are no alerts in this update. However, I just want to draw attention to the advise element, which identifies the need to encourage people to attend the procurement training. It's not universal training, it's specifically targeted at departments and teams where there have been some hiccups along the way in terms of compliance. So the committee, and I know Alan will be on this, will be looking to be assured that people are actually attending these programs.
Jane? Any questions for Jane? Right, Education Commissioning and Quality Committee held on the 13th of November.
Obviously on duty to behalf, she's not here today. I think it's taken as read, Chair. There was nothing specific to alert the board to on this occasion, but you can see the topics that we discussed as part of that meeting. I'll just release them.
Okay, so I'm asking you to note the content of the Audit and Assurance Committee and note the Audit and Assurance Committee recommendations. I'm asking you to note the content of the report of the Chair of Education Commissioning and Quality Committee. I ask you to note, please.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. The in-committee decision report is there for you to see. Any queries? Can I ask you to note the report, please? My favourite bit of the meeting. Consideration of the corporate risk register. Alex, given our discussions today, is there anything you feel needs to be reflected in the corporate risk register that needs strengthening or adding to?
I think we've noted that some of the UK discussions around postgraduate medical education programs is probably approaching the level that it needs to be on the corporate risk register. Even though the nature of the risk is changing at the moment, I think we do need to reflect that on there. Substantial consequences for us. So we will do that based on an SPAR review discussed in the executive team. And I think other than that, I feel that risks are appropriate to the conversations that we've had.
Dependent members,
Just a question on risk 19. I think with the context of the, it's scheduled 16 feels low. Great for officers to have a look at again. So I think it must be higher at the time.
What's the subject?
Yeah, ETP.
ETP.
And funding. I just
Yeah, it's good. It's a good challenge, I think. I think when we scored it at that, it was in the context of what we currently know around some of the employment opportunities, but bearing in mind this is the plan that will be training people for the
Not
next
for
few
today,
years.
it's for tomorrow.
Exactly, yeah. So, yeah.
So
It's
can
a
I
fair challenge.
ask a cheeky question here then? Using the assured, advise and alert, who should be being alerted? In terms of that risk? Well, we're aware of that risk.
Yeah.
Welsh government.
Welsh government are aware.
Yeah. They're aware, but are they alert? I'm saying this, it needs significant consideration. And we've got a piece of education training plan advice gone in.
Yeah.
And the risk in there is not today, but it's comes down the track very quickly.
Yeah, but I think in what we've submitted, which is only yesterday, which is the most recent one,
Yeah.
we have detailed the risks involved in individual and collective decisions. So I think we have alerted them to the risks. Now we need them to consider that. If there becomes risk around timeline, then that's a separate alert that to go in.
Okay. Thank you. So you'll get back to us then about that, assessing that level of risk, the 16.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we probably need to do some more work on what we think the next few years are telling us in terms of future workforce demand.
Okay. And just for information, we've got the NHS Wales Shared Services Partnership Committee report in there, and that's just for us to note. Yeah. And I'm very pleased to say that we have come to the end of our meeting. I'd like to thank everybody for their attention, particularly the detail in which you've read the reports and considered them. And I'd like to thank the exec team for the work that they are doing, and Alex for your leadership. So the next session of the board will be a board development session to be held on the 11th of December. And the next formal open board meeting will be held on the 29th of January via in this room and via Teams. And I would just say finally, diolch o galon, James. Thank you very much for your sterling work and your help in taking HEIW forward. Thank you. All right, that's it. Diolch yn fawr pawb. Hwyl dda.